she said, I have had 15 years experience with Bharat Petroleum to start with, various field assignments. Then I rolled out the allied retail business, the non-fuel business of Bharat Petroleum, which are the bazaars, the convenience stores, the petrol card, the smart fleet, the ATMs at the retail outlets. The highways we put up various curves, and curve is actually a name for a dhaba. Then I moved on to Reliance. Reliance again, we went to US, studied a US fuel-based fuel retailer called Flying J, and we just replicated their processes in India. However, because of government pricing, Reliance had to exit, at least closed down. They're not exited really, but they closed down their petrol pumps across the country. So we rolled out the petrol pumps across the country, and we again launched various loyalty programs for different audiences, truck drivers, truck owners, even city customers. The last 4 years I've been with this company called Directions Marketing Solutions. We are essentially a direct marketing company. Direct marketing, I'm sure Jayanta told me that you have been briefed on this. So he told me that he's already briefed you on direct marketing. So it's more one-to-one, where you know who the customer is, who you are talking to, and then reaching out to them one-to-one. But when the moment you get into one-to-one marketing, you are then talking about retaining this customer's loyalty to the organization, to whichever marketing company you are working for. So when we got into direct marketing, from there we graduated into loyalty marketing, relationship marketing. Relationship marketing is where you can't really have a points-based system. Many programs don't give you points all the time you transact, but at the same time they track you at the back end in terms of what items do you buy, how much do you buy, and basis that they would give you certain special privileges. So that's called a relationship program. So direct marketing, directions marketing is into direct marketing, loyalty marketing, and relationship marketing. So these are the three spaces. I'll quickly take you through a registered presentation because that gives a context to the whole discussion which we'll have over the next couple of hours. Formerly we were known as Dial. In fact, that's how it's still known in many circles. We have been in this business for the last 20 years as an independent company, not relying to any of the major advertising networks. However, we are members of a group called Interdirect Network, which is a network of independent direct marketing agencies across the globe. So we have partners in 35 countries, and we have knowledge sharing with these countries as well. We have offices in Mumbai, Delhi, and Kolkata, and we also have an office in the US to get a lot of outsourced analytical work from the US into India. If you were to look at what is the domain we are in, typically when we go for a pitch, the sort of questions which customers ask are, who are my high-value customers of tomorrow? There are certain customers who are today giving me a very good volume or very good value. But however, these are not necessarily the high-value customers of tomorrow. For example, if you were having a banking relationship with more than one bank, you tend to maximize your relationship with one particular bank. So if, for example, if you had a relationship with Bank of Baroda and say HSBC, so if Bank of Baroda, if you have been doing 8,000 rupee transaction on a credit card, Bank of Baroda would look at you as a 8,000 rupee per month customer. But that may not necessarily be true, because you may be actually spending 30,000 rupees month on month with HSBC on the credit card. So if I were to evaluate you as 8,000 rupee customer and build a relationship around that value, I may be totally off the mark. So the whole idea is, today most of the companies are asking us, saying that, okay, I have this transaction pattern, can you tell me who's my best customer for tomorrow? So then what we do is we get into the profile details of these customers in terms of their age profile, even PIN code, where they are residing, that gives a certain indication about who this person is. If the person is living in a Malabar Hill, vis-a-vis, say a Dharavi, so obviously, it indicates a certain profile of this customer. So we use these surrogates to tell companies saying that probably, and we go with a statistical model, saying that probably these are your best set of customers. Then what these companies do is tweak their entire communication, assuming that this is the best customer, and over a 2 to 3 month period or even a 6 month period, if they find that actually I'm able to extract more value out of these customers, then obviously what you are saying is right. The whole model is right, that these are your best customers. How do I improve effectiveness of my channel partners? What's happening is there are various sectors where 8-10 years back there are only 1 or 2 companies who are competing. Take for example insurance. 20 years back people would know only about life insurance, LIC for life insurance. Today you have at least 25-30 companies who are competing in the insurance space. What happens? 20 years back, if you were a LIC agent in your locality, you were a big man. Because you were the only man who was selling or who was pushing insurance to people. Today, so what had happened was guys who have spent many years in the business, they have built a certain equity with their end customer. There are LIC agents who knew their customers well, their entire family, the extended family, uncles, aunts, everybody. So when a new insurance company is launched, typically they would like these agents to be their channel partners as well, because these guys already know the locality, they know the customers very well. So there's a huge fight to get the best channel partners to be your channel partner. Yeah. So typically again, companies come to us and say that, can you build a relationship with my channel? Can I build a relationship with my channel partners? Can you help me to do that? So that is the sort of query which we get. What is the customer lifetime value for my identified clusters? Again, customer lifetime value, I don't know whether you had a session on customer lifetime value. Yeah. It's a very complicated parameter. Should I take, given the numerous new brands coming up, given the numerous new services which can replace one service. Yeah, for example, if we were to look at the way we listen to music, 10 years back, a Sony Walkman was a big thing. You definitely had cassettes which you used to buy and use. Then it became Sony CD Walkman. Today it's iPod. Yeah, the way you listen to music has changed. So it's not just a question of, will the customer stay with me? It's a question of what are the new products which are going to come in, what are the new technologies which are going to come in, which will change the lifetime value. So all the theoretical explanation or the theoretical, calculations of how to calculate lifetime value goes for a toss the moment such a new innovation comes into the market. So again, companies are, they are very stressed out in terms of, should I take 5 years? Should I take earlier 8 years, 10 years back when you did a IRR calculation for any new project, you would look at it as, okay, a 15-year life cycle. Today when you look at a new investment, you start looking at only at 5 years. Because beyond 5 years, to predict that somebody is going to be loyal to me, I would say that somebody is quite blind. How to analyze my data for insights into customer behavior and spend patterns? Again, one of the things which has happened in the last 4 to 5 years is increasingly companies know who their customers are. Increasingly companies are tracking every move of the customer. Every time you swipe your credit card, your credit card company knows where have you bought, how much have you bought. The retail company, say a Future Bazaar or a Big Bazaar, they know every SKU which you have bought there. Did you buy a packet of Lays? Did you buy Bond's powder or whatever? And so the whole SKU, at the SKU level, people have data. But then what do I do with this data? Unless I start looking at the data, mine the data and intelligently look at different clusters, it has no meaning. For example, today we work with company like Domino's. When you book an order in Domino's, what do? Typically, the Domino's has your phone number. They have a phone identification also in many cases. So, with the moment you call, they know that you are so-and-so calling. Yeah. They also have the data of what all you have ordered in the past. Every time you order, it goes into the database. So they know the last 10 orders of yours, what all did you order? Did you order non-veg pizza, veg pizza, garlic bread, Coke, with Coke, without Coke, all of that. So what we have done, using an analytical tool, we have helped them to create nearly 94 to 95 different clusters, so that when your call comes in, the person who's attending the call, he knows what to give you as a freebie. Should it be a free garlic bread? Should it be an extra cheese topping? Should it be a bread stick? Should it be a Coke? So automatically he says, can I give, instead of a personal pizza, can I give you a medium pizza at a 50 rupee extra? He would say yes, and the reason why he's offering is because of the insight which is there at the back end, which you have done an analysis and given in those inputs as to what should be the freebie which you should be offering. When are the best customers likely to churn? Again, if you look at telecom today, everybody is trying to get hold of those few 100,000 customers whose average monthly billing is upwards of 1,000, 1,500 rupees. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the term ARPU, average revenue per user. You know, most of the telecom companies are struggling at an ARPU level of 150 rupees, 125 rupees per month per customer. The reason being that there is a huge, millions of customers at the bottom of the pyramid who typically buy a 50 rupee recharge or 30 rupee recharge and things like that. So if you were to, the moment you go beyond 1,500 rupee per month billing, the companies will give their arm and leg to get these customers. So today, if my customer is giving me month on month 2,000 rupee billing, I need to do everything that I can to retain this customer, because this customer is likely to be taken away with some freebie or some foreign holiday to whatever by the other telecom company. Yeah. So that is again a critical thing. There are a lot of implementation questions. When IPL was conceptualized, IMG, which helped BCCI to launch IPL, they came to us saying that we want to do this. We want to market it as a franchisee to anybody who can invest in this franchiseship. And the brief was that people should be able to invest at least 50 crores in each of these franchisees. Yeah, 4 years back, you don't have those sort of databases readily available. Who can spend 50 crores on a franchise? Okay, these are the top 50, 20 people, 100 people who have that money, so you can list down. But beyond 100, you will get a roadblock. So we had to put together a database of around 1,000 people who would have the wherewithal to invest in an IPL franchisation. Yeah. So obvious choice would be the industrialists, but then we did go beyond the industrialists. Looked at obviously movie guys, looked at the sports investors worldwide. Looked at HNIs who are also NRIs abroad who have that sort of money. And obviously all the 8 eventual franchiseships came up from the list which we had given to IMG. So these sort of questions, it's very difficult for a mainline agency to say, okay, who is the person whom I should target? And more importantly, you are talking about a target audience of around 1,000 people. Obviously you can't be, if you are going to be putting full page ads about this, you'll be wasting money, and the ad also cannot tell everything which needs to be told about the franchiseship. What is he going to get? What should be the return and things like that. So clearly, direct marketing is what is the solution for these sort of issues. How do I fulfill rewards to remote corners of the country? It's a loyalty program, or a promotion. I need to send out rewards to people who may be in Kerala or Guwahati or Rajasthan, wherever. Similarly, when I do a relationship program, there are a lot of queries as to, can you organize this particular event for me? For example, for Ambuja Cement today, we are doing IPL equivalent, what we are calling it as an Ambuja Parivar League, for their dealers in various states. So So these are engagement devices which these companies want to execute so that their members or their customers can participate in these. And typically the whole conceptualization has to be in such a way that you need to understand that these are customers who already have an existing relationship with this company. So I need to build on that rather than try and create something new. So if you were to see what is our business, as I said, directly integrated marketing, where we source databases and market to those databases. That's one. Loyalty solutions, which is typically a points-based program, where a company says, I want to retain my best customers, but I don't know who my best customers are. So typically what you do is you start carding these members and say that every time you come to us, you swipe your card, I will give you some points. So when you start swiping the card every time, I start building a sort of a profile of you. How much can you spend? What are you spending on? And then I can then start looking at who's a high value customer, who's not a so high value customer. And third one is relationship marketing, where it can't be a points based program. For example, for doctors, a pharma company can't say that I'll give you points every time you write a subscription prescription for me. So what we do, but the medical reps have a good insight about the doctor. What is the value? Because his role is to interact with the doctor, interact with the chemist in the vicinity. So he knows how much of this doctor is, how much is he prescribing for this company. So we build a model at the back end to track, which doctor is prescribing more or less. And hence build a relationship basis that, which could be in the form of communication, could be in the form of some special privileges and things. Yeah. So once we have the business objectives of the client company, basis our experience, we give them solutions and getting on to a 360-degree engagement. So in terms of what is our breadth of offering, if you were to look at, it varies from strategic to executive. There are companies which will say that I give you the ideas. Consultancy. Typically, what does a McKinsey or a Accenture do? They come and say that I'll give you all the gyan. But the problem is, the difference between gyan and execution is so different that most of them are good on paper, but bad in execution. So, which is where, when you talk about customer relationship marketing, when you talk about one-to-one communication engagement, we had to necessarily walk the talk by getting into execution also. So, today, whether it is loyalty, whether it is CRM program, whether it is direct marketing, we straddle the entire space between strategy and execution. Similarly, there are those established ways of reaching out and interacting with your customers, which is in the form of direct marketing, which is in the form of loyalty programs, to the new age media, where it is entirely interactive. Where it is new age media, which is entirely interactive, whether it is web, whether it is SMS, whether it is the other media. So, and these are very difficult animals. It's no longer a push communication; it's a pull communication. You log on to the website when you want to. I can't push you to log on to the website. Unlike a newspaper where, okay, it's there in your face, you have to read it. Or an outdoor hoarding, yes, it's there in your face when you drive. But the moment it's mobile, I can push an SMS to you, but you may choose to delete it rather than read it. Similarly, I can send you an email, again you may choose to delete it without even opening. So these are big challenges for marketers today in terms of how do I make people to read my communication. So we come in as strategic consultants. So typically we would get into a strategic consultant space to understand what the customer client needs, give them a solution, give them a construct, name some of the best run loyalty programs in the country, whether it's the Jet Privilege program, the Taj Mahal program, the Shopper Stop Plus Executive program, the Bharat program, all of which we have conceptualized these programs initially. So we tell people that it requires a 6 to 8 week engagement to build a good construct. And if the construct is good, the program will run for many years, whether irrespective of who's the people who are running it on the client side or on the agency. Once we once we create the program, what happens is the loyalty program starts generating a lot of data. Okay. Because there's a lot of profile data as in your age, where do you stay, what are your interests, what is your earning capacity, CPC and things like that. Vis-a-vis the transactional data in terms of what are the items for which you are transacting, how much have you bought, what is the frequency of your purchase, all of that. Once we have both, then we can clearly build a very robust statistical model around who is your best customer, how much is he going to buy, what are the things which you can influence him with or go with, all of those you can build. So we've gotten into data analytics in a big way. Today Cartesian Consulting is a separate company which does consulting for companies like Vodafone, for ClearTrip, for Domino's I talked about. ClearTrip, how many of you booked on ClearTrip? Yeah. So when you do a booking, say for a Mumbai Delhi, and you have not done a return booking from Delhi Mumbai, you would normally get an email giving you a discounted rate on Delhi, or for a stay in Delhi. So that entire backend is driven on the Agilent platform, or the platform which we have, and the emails are automated so that a very targeted message goes to you to look at, which is relevant to you. So obviously, once I have the insights from data, I need to translate that into communication. So that's what this whole session is about. I'll be taking you to a few case studies of how we have mastered the art of getting insights from data and translating that into communication to get a very high ROI for various clients. So most of our campaigns will be data-driven campaigns, and one of the beauties of direct marketing is every campaign you can measure the response. It's not like mainline advertisement, which is called spray and pray. You just push out as much of communication as possible and hope that your target audience has seen it and will respond. With today the media being so fragmented, for example, Times of India. I stopped reading Times of India because I feel that it's all paid, actually paid articles. Most of the articles are paid articles. So somebody who says that Times of India is the largest selling daily in Mumbai and things like that, I would not even know what is the product. So media habits have become so fragmented across various things. The way my daughter consumes media is very different from the way I do. I still read the morning newspaper, whereas she would log on to a website and she's comfortable being online most of the time. And for her, what she would read would depend upon what her friends recommend rather than what she would on her own want. So it's a very, very fragmented media, and hence increasingly people are looking at direct marketing vis-a-vis mainline advertisement. Mainline advertisement will still be relevant. It has its own role because when you're launching a new product, your first task is to ensure as many people in the country knows about your product. So to that extent, television or print media is relevant. But beyond that, to make people buy, to tell your target audience, saying how is my product relevant to you, I probably have to move to a one-to-one or direct marketing media. And that's where we come in. I'll show you a lot of case studies in terms of how this gets translated, insight gets translated. And obviously technology is a big driver today. So as a company, we have been early adapters of many of these technology. As I said, the analytical tool, we are one of the first few direct marketing companies who invested heavily into analytics. Today we have a team of about 20 statisticians from the Indian Statistical Institute and the University of Mumbai Statistical Park, who do these various statistical modeling for clients and then validate it with data. Understanding how data runs, we invested in data center, servers, the whole works. So that is a very important part of direct marketing. Today, direct marketing is all about knowing the database thoroughly, managing the database well, and hence making relevant offers to individual sets of customers. As I said, it's all good to say that, give the gyan saying that this is how we do, this is your best customer, this is what you should do. But at the end of the day, when we get into implementation, there are huge tasks. I'll show you some complications in terms of how how to implement some of these. Huge tasks in terms of how the data would work or how the communication will work. So unless there is an agency which can take care of the implementation. For example, for doctors, Ranbaxy came to us saying that I want to build a relationship with doctors. Now, if you were to look at what is relevant to a doctor, every pharma company keeps giving him, showering him with gifts. You go to his dispensary, there will be about 10 or 12 clocks, all of them having some branding of a pharma company. Similarly, refrigerators, at least every alternate year you will get a refrigerator from one of the pharma companies. How much of gifts? End of the day, he can't eat those gifts. The problem with the pharma companies, obviously they can't give him cash, so they are giving him in the form of gifts. So the brief to us was, how can we build a relationship which can move beyond just gifting? Obviously gifting has its own limitations, you can't. And there are many doctors